What's up, design family, and welcome back to another episode of Fittdesign TV. So glad to have you back on the channel. On today's episode, we have something that's a little bit different than our regular scheduled topics. I'll be running you guys through my day-to-day in terms of how I structure my daily routine that honestly I believe is an essential part of what allows me to run my life, to run my business, and to run my health in general. 10 key parts of my day, and essentially this is my routine as of today, which is Friday, 18 March 2022. Of course, this is a dynamic routine, one that I'm constantly evaluating and changing, but I've honestly seen over the last 4 or 5 years in building this business that structuring a strong routine is a fundamental part of waking up every day and giving myself the day that I need to have to keep the needle moving forward in my favor. And the first part of any successful day is obviously making sure that you've gotten a good night's rest from the night before. And I'm typically waking up between 5 and 6. That's on a day in which I'm training. Either I'm training weightlifting or I'm training boxing. And the idea here is to get something that's a bit selfish out of the way first. Why is this important? I think as a business owner, you can definitely get into sort of serving others, whether it's serving your employees, serving your business, serving your family, serving your loved ones, and it's easy to forget about your own fundamental needs. And I think that's a big mistake. You can't serve others and you can't be present for others if you don't take care of yourself first. And this comes in the form of my own personal sort of health and fitness. And part of having that health and fitness is making sure I'm active every day, I'm moving towards my goals, and I'm living in a vehicle that's going to get me to where I want. So I'll wake up in the morning, I'll go to the gym, either box or I'll train weightlifting, and this is typically around 4 to 5 days a week. Then I'll get home, and obviously the idea is I want to fuel my body for the day ahead. This is around 7 to 8. I'll take a shower, I get dressed, I take a lot of pride in the way that I present myself. I make sure that I'm always looking sharp, and this is a mental note for me to have an amazing day. As I get into the office, typically around 9:30, here the first order of business is to look at all of our orders from the night before. We're a digital agency. We work with brands from all over the world to design and develop sportswear, clothing, and other types of casual wear. So the first order of business is to make sure that we're looking at any customer request that's come in, any order that's been confirmed, and to make sure that we're cataloging them and scheduling them accordingly. The last thing I want is for our client to consider us, to decide to pull the trigger on us, and we're forgetting about them. So we are setting up that project for success. We'll put those orders into our project management app that we use called Trello, which is then gonna set me up for the next key essential part of my day. Once we've cataloged our orders and we've set up Trello, now it's time to take meetings with my internal team. All of my meetings happen in person because obviously all of our designers are in-house. This is an absolutely crucial meeting, and depending on the size of the team at the time, it'll either be split up into 1, 2, or 3 different meetings, depending on who I need to see and what tasks I need to assign. This is such an important part of building a strong relationship and sort of cultivated identity with your team. It's about getting everyone on the same page. It's about making sure that everyone has a cohesive sense of who's doing what needs to happen, any issues we're facing, so that we can troubleshoot and we can brainstorm ideas moving forward. Typically, this will come in the form of going through Trello, making sure that any to-dos are being assigned accordingly, any doing tasks are being performed to the caliber and sort of the standard that we've set, and any done tasks are being sent out and are being updated with their customers accordingly. I'll also make sure that my assistant is taking down notes in terms of what needs to happen with each of the different team members, and that way this just sort of sets that idea further in stone that this is what we're expecting today, this is what we need to get done, and if there are any issues that arise, we should address them accordingly. Moving on from the all hands meeting, then I'll start to take meetings with our suppliers that are from overseas. Most of the suppliers we work with are either located in Eastern Asia, so this is a perfect time for me to make my meetings with them as their day begins to wind down. We're sort of in the middle time zones as we're located in Beirut, Lebanon. We're in the middle between the West and the East. This is a great opportunity to catch up on major projects, to look at any sort of products that we have in development, any feedback that we need to give, any issues that we're facing between the customer and the factory, just to make sure that we are keeping to push the projects forward. As a design agency, we're uniquely positioned between the customer and the factory to make sure that a design is implemented exactly as intended. We're a product design agency that takes pride in having insane technical knowledge and creative knowledge and merging these two things together to create products that are industry leading and that are produced to the highest standard. Honestly, most of the suppliers that we work with enjoy working with us so much, specifically because we have this strong technical understanding of products, and we cultivate and continue to cultivate this technical understanding. Once I finished up my supplier meetings, here we're typically at around 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. At this point, I have to take internal team reviews with the different team members. This is sort of an interim review before the end of the day to make sure that any assigned tasks are being performed on schedule, and if any of my team members have any issues, I can address those issues with them, I can help them resolve them, and I can keep the process moving forward. This is going to take me up until around 3 p.m. to 4 p.m., at which I take a quick break. Typically, I'll grab a lunch, and this is around 15 to 20 minutes. I use that to regroup my thoughts, just to unwind a little bit, and then get straight back into the action. Once I've actually come out of my lunch, essentially I'll have a meeting with my assistant, and I'll start to go through my list for the end of the day. I mentioned that we're a design agency that's uniquely positioned between the East and the West. Most of our clients are located in the West, and a lot of the technical and factory locations that we work with are with the East. So what that allows us to do is to straddle those two different time zones. And typically, I'm setting myself up at this time for the work and the communication that I'm going to have to do in what I call the night shift. Yes, it's a little bit tiresome, but this is a part of the business and a time in the business in which I'm sowing the seeds for the future. And I find that this is an essential part of cultivating good client relationships, being present for them, being attentive, being available to them when they need me. That way, the next day in the morning when they're asleep, we can hit the ground running. So I'll set up my night list and the things that I need to do. Typically, I'll go through Trello. I'll make sure that any sort of packs or sort of final deliverables that have been completed or are in the process of completion with my team, that I'm giving them a final review. I take great pride in personally checking a lot of the work that goes out of the company, especially at this stage. In the future, this probably won't be the case as we begin to grow the hierarchy of the business, and I begin to detach myself little by little to make sure that the business can continue to thrive, to grow, and to continue to cultivate it to the next level. But at this stage, I personally check each and every deliverable that goes out the door to make sure that these standards are met, and if there are any issues, that I can train my team on how to overcome these issues and how to avoid them moving forward. By 5 p.m., I have to go into another round of internal reviews, and really the goal here, as opposed to the earlier internal reviews, is to make sure that the projects and the tasks that have been assigned at the beginning of the day are beginning to be rounded up. This is a final check that I do, whether it's on a video design project, pretty much like the video that's being edited at the moment, or on any tech packs that are being worked on, or any issues that we're facing with factories or with customers, that I'm wrapping those up. I've created the conclusion, and I'm providing adequate feedback and support to my team to keep them pushing along. I typically round out the day with my team at around 6:15 to 6:30. And really the way that we round out is by doing a end of day all hands meeting. This again is one of the most crucial parts of the day for two key reasons. Number one, it gives us an overview of all of the tasks that have been finished as an entire team. Most times there's a task, we have multiple team members that are collaborating on that same task at the same time. So it also gives clarity between team members in terms of where we've come up short, where we've excelled, where additional support needs to be given. At the same time, we'll outline any key issues that need my support or any other person's support for the day going forward. And at this stage, we'll begin to outline the tasks that are going to have to be taken and going to have to be prioritized tomorrow. And now the end of the day, or the end of my team's day, this is around 7 p.m. At this point, I'll shift into my night shift mode, and I'll start to go through the tasks that I had taken down at around 5 p.m. These tasks are a little bit varied, but a lot of them have to do with admin tasks. They're sort of high-level tasks, whether it's making sure that deliverables are double-checked and they're ready to send off, whether it's client communication with the customers that I deal with personally, and sort of developing that business and sort of moving it forward. I take a lot of pride in making sure that I'm personally involved in a lot of the key relationships that have grown the business from point A to point Z and will continue to grow the business forward. This is also a period where I get to do a lot of focused work. It's not ideal in the sense that it's typically at the end of the day, but by making sure that I've eaten well, I've slept well, I've exercised on that day, really at around 7, 8 p.m., I still feel extremely mentally focused super sharp and super energetic. I'm able to work to around 9 p.m. making sure that I'm getting these tasks out of the way, and then I'll wind down for the day. I'll typically go home, I'll definitely prioritize my eating, I'll read and I'll meditate, and the idea is to make sure that I'm getting enough sleep for the next day. This may seem like a super hyper-focused mode of being, and of course, it's very important to live a balanced life. I find that for me, this is an extremely balanced life that gives me the results that I need and that I want out of life. At this stage, I'm trying to push my business forward, and at the same time, I'm trying to prioritize my own physical, mental health, and I think balancing these things is a worthy challenge worth taking on. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, hopefully you've learned a thing from this routine. Again, this is what works for me, and I'm always constantly evaluating and re-evaluating what I have to do and what's not working, what could be worked better. And of course, there's no perfect routine. We're all trying to find our way in the world, and take this as an example of what works for me, but what works for you may be a little bit different. And you can pull from here and push from there, and hopefully you find what works for you. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode and you want to see other episodes like this where I give you a bit more of a personal, in-depth look on my day-to-day, let me know in the comments below, and we may look into doing more of this type of content. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Fittdesign TV. Until next week's episode, stay awesome.